Let's cut to the chase. I am resigning as manager of Roma. But listen, we had a great time and a great season. We won the Serie A and Tammy bagged 48 league goals, which definitely helped. He also scored and assisted in the cup final to help us win the Coppa Italia too, meaning we can cross off 2 trophies from the Glory Hunter Challenge. But where the hell are we gonna go now? Well, as we seen at the end of the last episode, the Chelsea job is free, and out of them and Leon, I'd much prefer that move, so I applied. Ironically, it was former Chelsea boss Tuchel who took my job at Roma. But it wasn't long before I was invited to an interview, and I sat down with Todd Bowley. The other job that was free in the Serie A is Inter Milan, and that was taken by Zidane. But the Chelsea job was going to be mine, and the next stop in Glory Hunter is with the Blues. It also turns out the best formation here is the same one I've been using in Rome. It's clear to see this side was underperforming, 5th in the league, 22 points behind champion City, and not doing very well in the Cups. And looking at this side, they have a lot of talent, but definitely some missing pieces. Lukaku is still here, but he only got 18 goals in all competitions last season. One of their signings I love since the start is Ivan Nilsson from Porto, but they had also made daft signings like Wilfried Zaha for 38 million. However, their best addition to the side we know is Moises Caicedo. The Ecuadorian midfielder joined the Blues last season for just 45 million. I will of course be reunited with Badiashile when he returns from his loan spell at Roma. Asensio was the other only change to this side, who came in on a free recently but barely played. And I began my own transfer journey in London, getting rejected by a Turkish goalkeeper who chose Spurs over us for a £10 million move. And that seemed like an ongoing theme, as this goalkeeper rejected us too, going to Leipzig. I couldn't spend too much though, as I only had £64 million, which was enough to meet Valverde's value on the transfer list at Real Madrid, an absolute steal, and I could not believe it. But hilariously, the Chelsea board, would you believe it, said this doesn't represent value for money. The Chelsea board, Todd Bowley, the same man who spent £19 million on Mudryk in January. Now, I was completely baffled why they wouldn't let me do the transfer. The first bit of business I did was sell Ziyech to AC Milan, who had him on loan last season and matched a buyout clause, which I was cool with. But then I negotiated and eventually accepted this mental £141 million deal for Kai Havertz from PSG. Yes, he's a fantastic player, but it allowed us to strengthen more needed areas. Bringing in Mark Gerhard back to Chelsea from Crystal Palace for triple the price they sold him for.
Sorry, what?
Valverde at one point went down as low as £8 million, but for some reason Real Madrid wouldn't listen to any offers from us for a while. So I had to wait a few weeks, and eventually we got the deal done for £48 million, £15 million more than what the board was originally blocking. And the final signing I made was Stefan Ortega as a backup goalkeeper from Man City for a really good price. And that's because we sold Kepa for £13.5 million. So in all this window, as we hit our first match, we spent £114 million, but the transfers out equated to 193. So we actually made nearly £18 million profit from this window, but that was spread across wages. We even tried to help Roma out by trying to loan Mudryk, but he rejected the move. I don't know if you noticed, but this year the Europa League is going to be really hard to win for Glory Hunter, because for instance, in England the top 5 can now qualify for the league phase of the Champions League, which as we know also prevents anyone from dropping into the Europa League as it used to. So that trophy could be the hardest to obtain in this challenge. First game of the season though, and I slightly altered the Roma tactic to suit my new Chelsea side with an almost 4-2-3-1/4-3-3 hybrid, as this is the lineup for our first match. So our first Premier League match against Norwich started very well, with us scoring just after 10 minutes from new signing Valverde, and it wasn't long before Sterling's shot was saved for Mount to double our lead. But Norwich had other ideas and Josh Sargent made it 2-1. So Mason Mount scored another from Sterling's cross, and Ben Chilwell scored a banger from left back just before half time, and Lukaku capped off the 5-1 opening game win with his goal in the 70th minute. Good start. Our next couple of fixtures are Newcastle, followed by Manchester United. One thing I hadn't mentioned yet was Todd Bowley made me make some promises when offering me the job, which included a better dressing room atmosphere to keep our job. I couldn't quite believe it though, what I was seeing when I won my first home match 6-0 against Newcastle with 6 different goal scorers. However, I also couldn't believe my eyes when I witnessed one of the worst goalkeeping performances ever from Edouard Mendy, who in this 3-0 loss at Old Trafford was probably either at fault or in a terrible position for all 3 goals we conceded, and we have no money to replace him. After that disaster, I decided to give Ivan Nielsen a game up front. It was a great decision and he scored back-to-back hat-tricks in the league. We couldn't really do much on deadline day because of our wage bill ate up most of our transfer budget. And despite us selling most of the players in the league and for the biggest price, the Havertz deal was by far the largest deal of the summer too. Our Champions League fixtures were in and we face a tough start with Barcelona up this month and PSG in November. And so against the Spanish giants we took the lead through Fofana at the near post, but it was also a game I decided to start Christian Pulisic from the left hand side, and that turned out to be a great choice too, because he scored 2 goals from blocked chances and we defeat Xavi's Barcelona 3-0 at the Bridge. From there we faced Man City 3 days later and Erling Haaland set up Phil Foden to give the champions the lead. However, from a free kick this time Fofana scores again and we steal another 3 points against great opposition when Ben Chilwell bagged the winner. We still dropped 4 points in September though with draws against West Ham and Tottenham, but it was Borussia Dortmund up next. We also find ourselves top only by goal difference to Tottenham and Southampton of all teams. But October was a good month, starting with a great win against Dortmund with another 2 goals from Wesley Fofana, who has been incredible from set pieces this season. Although Dortmund did equalise from Oscar Gluck, we put ourselves back in the lead the minute after from Ivan Nielsen, and Lukaku, who made an appearance off the bench, scored a 4th in a 4-1 victory. We picked up 6 wins from 6 matches in October, scoring 8 goals in the Champions League match, but it was a much more difficult November, ending with PSG and then Liverpool. And Tottenham seemed to have dropped more points while Southampton stayed within 2 points of us so far for now. Unfortunately, November seen us drop early points still to Leicester, but a good Champions League win against Marseille and 2 more league wins against Forest and Wolves before we faced PSG in Paris. And Fofana scored a hat-trick in that Forest game too. But he couldn't score any goals in the Parc des Princes, where PSG unfortunately defeated us 2-0 with the first coming from Mbappe, and guess who scored the second? Of course, it was Kai Havertz. Mason Mount also sprained his ankle ligaments and will be out until Christmas, which meant he missed the Liverpool game, but thankfully his replacement Asensio scored the opener. Liverpool did equalise from the penalty spot and then they even took the lead right after from a corner. However, we still shown fight back at Anfield and Ivan Nielsen scored a great goal to level 2-2. Arsenal and Manchester United still keep the pressure on, just 3 points behind us, with champions Man City truly bottling this season down in 8th place. And we played them twice in December, as well as Arsenal coming up very soon. Before that match, we dropped points to Southampton, who still find themselves in the top 5 so far, meaning Arsenal could go top if they beat us. But Ivan Nielsen was not going to let that happen, scoring the only goal of the game at the Emirates. We picked up 2 losses though in December, but neither were against Man City. One was a 3-0 loss to Tottenham, however. As well as knocking them out of the EFL Cup, we also beat Man City in the league at the Bridge, despite going 1-0 down to them thanks to Erling Haaland after just 4 minutes. A shock winner coming from N'Golo Kante of all players though in this 2-1 win. But the loss to Tottenham allowed Manchester United to level the points in the league with just 21 games played, and we actually face them coming up very soon in January. As we went into 2025 though, I was buzzing to see our former Roma star Tammy Abraham with the Ballon d'Or. He fully deserved it. Although Roma are actually struggling without us, down in 7th place in the Serie A. I noticed a certain Robert Lewandowski only had 6 months left in his contract, allowing us to approach, for which I did, and he was willing to talk to us, and eventually he agreed on a contract. But Barcelona ruined it by activating an extension clause. I'm absolutely gutted. Just before the United fixture, we picked up a surprise loss to Aston Villa after Sterling gave us the lead in the first half. I was also surprised by a transfer, Jude Bellingham joining Manchester City in the January window for £102 million. But a very strong side was available for the top of the table clash against Manchester United. It was big Wes Fofana who found the net first at the back post from a corner. And with 3 minutes left, Reece James cut down the right hand side and his cross was fired home from Kovacic and we take the 3 points. It was actually a big month. 2 Champions League wins with a big one against Napoli at the end, and we got ourselves into the League Cup final after beating Brighton in the semi-final across 2 legs. Shame that doesn't really count for Glory Hunter though. We finished second in the Champions League phase, so we have to wait for our round of 16 opponents to be drawn, while we look ahead to a very tough February. We got our revenge on Tottenham by knocking them out of the FA Cup at the 4th round. Maddison did equalise at the half-hour mark for them, but big Rom Lukaku came off the bench to score the winner. But in the league, we suffered a loss at the hands of Liverpool at home. And then in the next game against Arsenal, Valverde picked up a straight red card after just 15 minutes. And while being completely under the cosh all game, Eddie Nketiah scored and it's 2 defeats in a row. Meaning we are now knocked off the top spot for the very first time since matchday number 5. However, not for long, as Liverpool then went and beat Manchester United while we win our match against Southampton to regain that top spot back. And we put ourselves into the quarterfinals of the FA Cup after demolishing Palace 6-0. But Arsenal ended our FA Cup dreams this season after a big 4-1 defeat at the Emirates. Annoyingly, we did win the League Cup, which again doesn't count for Glory Hunter, and we faced Manchester United in the final. It wasn't just a win either. We absolutely destroyed the side, giving us a tough race for the league title 6-0 at Wembley to lift our first trophy as Chelsea manager. In the Champions League though, which does count for Glory Hunter, we drew Dortmund and Ivan Nielsen scored the first 2 goals of the tie in the first leg in Germany, and Dortmund were in trouble. We made it look easy against Dortmund, beating them 4-0 in the first leg and 5-0 in the second, which makes the loss to Arsenal even weirder right after. But anyway, it's AC Milan next in the quarterfinals in a much calmer April. We've increased our lead ahead of United to 4 points now, giving us a bit of breathing room. April began with a fantastic win against our rivals Fulham, with our Brazilian striker scoring a wonderful hat-trick of goals. He really has come into his own this season, keeping Lukaku mostly in a rotation role when he is needed a rest. And yet, despite us winning all 3 games against Wolves and Leicester as well, it stays 4 points between us and Manchester United in the race for the title. Another European night at Stamford Bridge to remember for the Chelsea fans as we take on AC Milan and give ourselves a fantastic opportunity to reach the semi-final with a big 5-1 first leg win. The heroes of the fixture too was of course Ivan Nielsen, who picked up 2 goals, and then surprisingly Wesley Fofana, who got himself another hat-trick from centre-back. We lost in the second leg 2-0, but of course we still progressed through on aggregate to face Bundesliga contenders RB Leipzig. Straight into that semi-final first leg in Germany then, and what a goal from Marco Asensio that is. And right on the stroke of half-time, an incredible cross from Cucurella finds Ivan Nielsen and we are 2-0 up. But hold on to your hats because it's gonna get even better as the ball finds its way to the back post where Asensio makes it 3-0 in the first leg. A huge opportunity to put ourselves into the Champions League final potentially against Liverpool, who just beat Man United 4-1. But let's focus quickly back on the Premier League though, because we play Newcastle next and Isak has just chipped our goalkeeper from 25 yards. However, you need luck to win the Premier League, I always believe, and that's exactly what we got today. Because talk about being in the right place at the right time for Ivan Nielsen, who was pretty much struck both times with the ball to score 2 goals and earn Chelsea 3 very crucial points. Shockingly, the league title is just a win away as Man United lose 1-0 to 19th place Sheffield United, who are already relegated, putting us 7 points clear with 3 games to go. Before that, we need to secure our place in the Champions League final though, and we make it 4-0 on aggregate against Leipzig. Give them their due though, they did give us a good game on the night. They pulled one back from the spot and getting a second, but we are going to the Champions League final, where we will face Liverpool. We just need a win against West Ham though, and Mark Guehi scores after just 1 minute. He also doubles our lead in the 70th minute from another set piece, and in just 1 season as Chelsea manager, we are crowned the Premier League champions as Andre Santos scores a 3rd. Confirmation before Manchester United can even play their match. Chelsea are champions of England. Another trophy to add to our Glory Hunter cabinet. And with the Premier League trophy crossed off, is it going to be the Champions League next? Well, I guess you'll have to tune in to find out in the next episode, so make sure you're subscribed so you do not miss it, and I'll slap it up on the screen if it's out.